Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're going to be talking about XRP. There have been a couple updates to their lawsuit, so some recent news to cover there, and then we'll dive into some chart analysis and price predictions. Before we hop in, just wanted to quickly mention I'm partnering up with KuCoin. This is how I trade all of kind of the small cap gems that we talk about on this channel, so Trias, MTV, VRA. So if you're looking for a place to trade those, feel free to use the link that I have dropped in the description below. You'll get some free cash when you sign up, and it's a great place, very efficient place to trade a lot of those small cap altcoins. So now that we have that out of the way, let's dive right into the video. So what's kind of important to note here that's come up on the Ripple radar, XRP radar, is that there's been an update in terms of the timeline that's supposed to be expected for when this lawsuit can be over. So right now, Ripple wants to get it over by mid-May, they're saying, and the SEC is saying it's too premature right now to kind of call it being over by then. So basically what happened recently is the SEC added a supplemental expert report, to the latest filing, which apparently wasn't necessarily supposed to be allowed, and apparently they also had quite a few mistakes in this follow-up report. So the SEC's lost a lot of credibility, a lot of respect in terms of their ability to come at Ripple. It seems like they had a little less to their case than people expected, which is obviously good news for Ripple. And so when we're talking about XRP and what's to come, this is just really important to keep your eye on. Obviously, anything can happen here. The SEC does have a lot of power. They don't expect there to be any additional liability-related discovery into XRP at this moment, and hopefully it's done somewhere between May and this winter. But the other piece of news that's important to touch on is the fact that Coinbase was recently sued for selling 79 unregistered crypto securities, one of those being XRP. So it's really interesting to see how this may affect them. As of now, to give you guys a little bit of a deep dive into what actually happened, essentially, Coinbase being a public company, they have to declare securities as securities. And so some of these kind of cryptocurrencies flirt on the edge of being a security or not being a security. So what the lawsuit's kind of stating is that purchasers do not have access to the disclosures that accompany the issuances of traditional securities. So the disclosures like when you buy a stock. Rather, the investors receive at most only the so-called white papers, we're familiar with those, which describe the token but do not satisfy the requirements for prospectus under federal and state securities laws. So definitely something to keep your eye on. I think Coinbase probably is prepared for something like this. I mean, this is a tough line to toe all the time when you're talking about working with the SEC, but they are staking a claim for $5 million, they say, for damages. So it's definitely not, a small blip on the radar. Coinbase is gonna have to address it, and we're also gonna see how this kind of affects Ripple. But at the same time, it's important to kind of look at this from a macro standpoint, and kind of, this is part of the process of bringing crypto to the mainstream and kind of having it be regulated. So just keep your eye out on that. It'll be interesting to see how this is going to affect XRP on top of that. So getting into a little bit of the effects that we've already seen, because this is recent news, so it's been developing, but it is really cool to see that the network of folks actually using XRP's technology, their payment technology, has actually grown despite the lawsuit. So they've actually, and this is according to their general manager, apparently the payment volume was at a run rate of over $10 billion, and they now have over 22 market destinations. And this is including like big banks, like Australian banks, Canadian banks. If we scroll up here, if we look at, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce has been using Ripple, as well as the National Australia Bank. And here's a quote from the National Australia Bank. This kind of gives you guys a little bit of context as to what they're actually using it for. And so they say, "We believe the technology has the potential to not only deliver real-time international payments, but also improve security and efficiency of our payment system. So this is an important piece of work." So banks are starting to pick up on this. And it's very cool that despite all of this kind of noise, from a logical perspective, really the fundamentals of XRP have never been stronger. More people are using the network than ever. More people have adopted it than ever. And there's been more transaction volume than ever. actually using it as a real payment system. So in terms of fundamentals, some of this news could be a lot of noise, and maybe the fundamental news over the long term or the fundamental actual makeup of XRP and the ecosystem trumps, some of this negative news. So, there's a lot of recent news that's coming out in terms of a lot of these investment websites, if you've heard of Seeking Alpha, all kind of recommending that you take a look at this and maybe buy up on the news. So, they're kind of citing a bunch of experiences from different companies saying it's frictionless. It's really easy to send money globally using the blockchain technology. They make it pretty simple. So there's a lot of exciting things to be aware of when it comes to XRP. I personally think a lot of this news is going to blow over, and I think, the fundamentals still remain very bullish. But let's hop over and do some quick bit of chart analysis here. This is the 1 week chart we have up, and I want to start here because it clearly shows this chart pattern, which is called a symmetrical triangle. That's what you're seeing that's drawn up here. And why I have this drawn up here is because anytime one of these forms on a chart, typically it means that there is a breakout coming either to the upside or to the downside. So it usually, as it kind of condenses between these triangle lines, it either breaks above or breaks below. But once it gets in this area, usually the chart makes a decision. It either goes upside or downside. So, the general, most recent trend obviously has been really good. We have 4 green weeks in a row right here. I didn't have that brush on me. 4 green weeks in a row right there, which is great to see. And we also bounced pretty much perfectly off of our 200-day moving average. And you can see that's basically in line with our upward trend line in that symmetrical triangle. You see another bounce here, and this bounce right here. So that's all super, super bullish in terms of the long-term structure of the chart. So we love to see that. Look for, these next couple months are going to be key in here, depending on what comes of the news and then also what the chart action looks like. It's going to be an interesting time here in the next quarter or so for XRP. But going into a little bit more granular analysis, I want to pull up the daily chart. And so I had this on here so you could see it, but we're going to take that off. A couple things I want to note. So I want to talk about the moving averages, and you maybe already noticed this, but it's really, really rare that we're below the 200 and 100-day moving averages. It happened back here in June, and we were there for below both. We were there for about 56 days or so. And right now we've been kind of solidly below both of them for quite some time. If we count it to back here, we're talking almost 100 days under both of these moving averages. And a lot of consolidation between here. So definitely something that I want to note, because typically, if you can see, after we finally break break above these moving averages, you can see almost immediately we get these big candles that kind of, because people are watching this obviously, right? Verifying that we're above both of those moving averages. Right after that happened, you're up 75% in less than a month. So definitely something to watch. If we convincingly break up above the 200-day moving average and the 100-day moving average, that's something that we may want to set our sights on, because you can see right here, we break above, and here too, we break above the 100-day, don't hit the 200-day. We break above the 100-day, but we don't quite, this is the 200-day. We don't quite get to that 100-day, right? So it's definitely something that you should keep your eye on. I think it's a good way to kind of determine when some of these charts are going to break out. Obviously, it looks bullish on the weekly perspective from a long-term standpoint. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about here was the RSI. So the RSI right now is playing between 50 and 70. So on the higher end right here, we've done that a couple times, recently, but we haven't actually been up there for quite a bit. I would say that we might come back and correct just a little bit before we push again, just because of how high our RSI is right now. RSI is not always obviously the main indicator, but it kind of helps you understand where you could be headed. So a couple final things. I want to draw out a fib here and give us an idea of what some of those next key levels are going to be. So let's take a look. Let's bring it over here. So right now we're really battling this 86 cent fib. So right about here, we're battling this, and you can see right now we're tapping it and having some trouble against it. If we zoom in here, we can see that the last couple of days it's been tough getting above this 86 cent level. And we're gonna have some not problems, but we're definitely gonna have another resistance point, in my opinion, up here at 91 cents, because we're coming above this neckline. Whenever you're coming out of breaking out of this neckline area right here, whenever you're kind of breaking out of this, which includes this fib, there's just a little bit of extra resistance, right? It's kind of tough to break straight out of that, right? So we kind of saw it here, where this is, the top. If you want to say you want to get above the neckline, they basically, and I'm getting kind of messy here, so I'll clean this up. But what we're talking about is this neckline, right? And we look, what happens, we shoot up, no problem, right to it, but then we get essentially rejected right near that neckline, which also turns out to be this fib. So that's why it's such a tough resistance, and that's why I'm watching that one closely. But once we get above there, we're not in the clear, but somewhat in the clear in terms of trying to push for about $1 and then $1.06. So our next play, once we get above that, is to play within this channel. Hopefully we sit above the 100 and 200 day moving averages, and then we can kind of see some more consolidation between these two channels, and then eventually maybe standing up on top of that $1.06 level. And obviously, a lot of people are super bullish long term. I'm bullish on the fundamentals of this project. That makes me bullish long term on the price action. It's really hard to predict the price of XRP because there's so much going on in the news, and there's so much aside from the chart that's going on with them right now. But I would say, right now our goal is, to find our way back up to this all-time high around $2. That's really going to be, I think, where we're trying to get, by the end of the year. If we can get back up here by the end of the year, that's really, really solid. Or if you want to say, by the end of the next run, a lot of people are going to say, we're going much higher. But I think with how much it's been through, how much XRP's been through, we need to be somewhat more conservative on their chart analysis, on their price predictions, just because there is so much going on from a news perspective. But that's kind of what I'm seeing on the charts. Obviously, you see that strong bullish structure on this chart as well. It's just it's a good looking chart, and I think it's going to do well long term. The fundamentals look great. It's really just the news and what's going on right now. So watch it closely. We're trying to get above both of those 100 and 200 day moving averages. And we right now on the daily are really battling this 85 cent level. And once we get above that, our next level we're looking for is $1.06. So if you see us convincingly for a few days in a row break above 8.6, it's going to be relatively safe to assume that we're going to play between that 8.6, stand on top, and then play between this area here at that 106 mark. So that's what I wanted you guys to look out for. Hopefully you guys got value out of the video. Like if you do, that'd be awesome. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments what else you want me to cover. And I'm just trying to bring value to you guys. So thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.